The unseen power of conscious observation. Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and instantly know what's happening without saying a single word? They can sense tension before anyone speaks, read attraction before it's confessed, spot opportunity before others even look up from their phones. That skill isn't magic. It's not luck. It's the unseen power that most people ignore every single day, conscious observation. And the moment you activate this power, your confidence changes. Your communication changes, your relationships change, your entire life changes. Most people listen to respond, but very few listen to understand, and even fewer observe deeply enough to catch the truth behind what's being shown on the surface. Conscious observation is the skill that separates those who merely exist in relationships from those who truly connect. When you observe someone with intention, you're not just paying attention to the words coming out of their mouth, you're paying attention to the layers underneath. You notice the slight tightening of their jaw when they talk about something painful. You pick up on the softening of their tone when something matters to them. You catch the way their eyes light up when they feel understood and the way their shoulders rise ever so slightly when they feel insecure. These tiny cues are invisible to most people, but they carry more truth than any spoken sentence ever could. What makes conscious observation so powerful is that it allows you to learn someone's emotional language without them having to teach it to you. Every person communicates differently. Some hide their hurt behind humor, some mask their stress behind silence, and some express love through action rather than words. When you observe consciously, you begin to understand these patterns. You start noticing that your friend becomes quieter when they're overwhelmed, or that your partner talks faster when they're anxious. Suddenly, the emotional world of others becomes readable. And when people feel seen, truly seen, they feel safe, they feel valued, they feel connected. Your relationships become deeper because you're not just interacting on the surface level, you're understanding the unspoken part of their experience. Another profound shift that happens through observation is the development of empathy. You begin to realize that every reaction has a story behind it. When someone snaps, you can sense the exhaustion behind it. When someone withdraws, you sense the fear. When someone hesitates, you sense the vulnerability. This doesn't mean you excuse bad behavior, but it means you understand where it comes from. Instead of reacting defensively, you respond compassionately. You ask the right questions. You approach with patience. And this emotional intelligence becomes the foundation of stronger bonds, better communication, and healthier relationships. Conscious observation also teaches you to slow down. In a world where everyone moves fast, speaks fast, and judges fast, being someone who pauses long enough to actually notice creates a presence that others feel drawn to. People trust someone who pays attention. They trust someone who remembers the small details. They trust someone who notices when something isn't right, even when nothing was said. This trust isn't built through grand gestures. It's built through consistent awareness. It's built through those moments when you look at someone and say, "You seem different today. What's going on?" That one sentence can open doors people didn't even know they needed to open. And the most beautiful part of all this is that conscious observation isn't a talent reserved for a few. It's a choice, a habit, a mindset. Anyone can develop it, but few choose to. The moment you decide to observe with intention, you unlock a new level of emotional connection that most people spend their whole lives craving. Most problems in life don't suddenly appear. They grow quietly, little by little, in the background. But most people are too distracted, too rushed, or too wrapped up in their own thoughts to notice the early signals. Conscious observation gives you the ability to see these signals before they turn into something bigger. It's like having emotional radar. You start picking up on the subtle shifts in people's behavior, tone, and energy long before anything is said out loud. And once you notice these early shifts, you're able to respond in a way that prevents misunderstandings, conflicts, and disappointments from escalating. Think about the last time someone's behavior changed slowly over time. Maybe they became more distant, less responsive, or slightly colder in their communication. Most people ignore these signs because they don't want to imagine something is wrong, or they assume it's just temporary. But conscious observation helps you understand that these little changes are rarely random. When someone begins to withdraw, even slightly, it's usually a sign of pressure, discomfort, insecurity, or unresolved emotion. Instead of waiting until they explode or disappear, you see the pattern early, and you can step in with clarity and care. You can ask questions that open the space for honesty, instead of waiting for things to break. The same applies to opportunities. Life often gives signals far earlier than people recognize. A project at work doesn't suddenly become available. Small hints show up in the way your boss talks, the way the team shifts, the problems that start needing solutions. Someone you're interested in doesn't suddenly show affection. The signs appear in the way they look at you, how they respond to you, and the tiny extra effort they make. Conscious observation isn't just about avoiding problems. It's about catching opportunities before everyone else sees them. It gives you a head start that most people miss simply because they're not paying attention. What makes this form of awareness so powerful is that it allows you to respond instead of react. When you see trouble building, you don't wait until emotions are high. You address things calmly and early. You don't let resentment stack up. You don't let confusion linger. You don't let distance grow into disconnection. You stay ahead of the curve. And when you see an opportunity forming, you don't wait for a perfect moment. You move decisively while others hesitate. Most conflicts, heartbreaks, and missed chances happen because people only pay attention when something becomes obvious. But by the time something is obvious, it's often too late. Conscious observation helps you catch the quiet beginnings so you can shape the outcome long before the ending is written. There is a kind of presence that makes people pause, pay attention, and feel something the moment you walk into the room. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, and it's not forced. It's the kind of presence that comes from being fully tuned into the moment. Grounded, aware, and consciously observing everything around you. Presence isn't about taking up space. It's about owning your space with calm confidence. And conscious observation is the root of that confidence. When you're truly present, you're not lost in your head, replaying old arguments or worrying about future outcomes. You're here. You're noticing. You're connected. That connection is what makes you magnetic. Most people walk around distracted. They're scrolling, rushing, worrying, reacting. They're physically in the room, but mentally somewhere else. When you're one of the few people who actually pays attention to the energy, the environment, the dynamics, the emotions, you immediately stand out. People can feel it when your attention is real. They can feel when you're actually listening, when your eyes are focused, when your mind is engaged. That kind of attention is rare, and because it's rare, it feels valuable. When you give someone your full awareness, they feel respected. When you notice the small details, they feel understood. When someone feels seen, they naturally feel drawn to you. Conscious observation also helps you adjust your energy to the room in a way that feels effortless. You can sense when to be bold and when to be calm. You can feel when a conversation needs lightness and when it needs depth. You can tell when someone wants attention and when they want space. You're not guessing, you're reading the situation with clarity. This makes you adaptable, responsive, and emotionally intelligent in real time. And that adaptability makes your presence feel balanced and grounded instead of overwhelming or invisible. Another powerful shift that comes from conscious observation is the way it quiets your internal noise. When you observe instead of overthink, your mind becomes clearer. You stop projecting fears or assumptions into situations, and you start experiencing things as they actually are. This reduces anxiety, strengthens your posture, and naturally improves the way you carry yourself. People notice when you're centered. They notice when you're calm. They notice when you're fully in the moment. It creates an unspoken authority that doesn't need to be announced, it's felt. Your presence becomes memorable not because you're trying to impress, but because you're fully engaged. When you observe consciously, you're no longer just in the room, you're connected to it. You're aware of the energy you bring, the signals others give, and the flow of the moment. That's what makes you someone people gravitate toward without even knowing why. Opportunities in life rarely arrive with fireworks, announcements, or obvious signs. They don't show up with a spotlight pointing directly at them, screaming, "This is your moment." Instead, they whisper. They appear as small shifts, quiet signals, subtle openings that most people walk right past because they're not paying enough attention to notice. Conscious observation is the skill that allows you to catch those subtle signals and turn them into life-changing advantages. When you observe deeply, you begin to see possibilities long before they're visible to everyone else. You start noticing things that once seemed irrelevant. Someone's comment that hints at a new project forming, a gap in the team where leadership is needed, a person who's been quietly admiring your work, or even an emotional opening in someone who wants to get closer but is too afraid to say it. These tiny clues often hold the seeds of massive breakthroughs. And the people who rise quickly in life aren't always the most talented or the most experienced. They're the ones who notice opportunity the moment it appears, not months later when it's already gone. Observation also sharpens your intuition. You begin to sense when something is shifting, when timing feels right, when a door is cracking open just enough for you to make your move. Instead of forcing results through pressure or impatience, you align your actions with the signs unfolding around you. You become someone who moves strategically, not desperately. You communicate at the right moment. You take initiative when it matters. You step back when needed and lean forward when the moment allows. This makes your decisions feel almost effortless to others, but the truth is, it's your awareness that's doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes. Another benefit of conscious observation is that it reveals opportunities that don't exist yet. You begin seeing potential in people and situations that others overlook. You spot the person with talent but no confidence, and you invest in them. You notice a small problem that could be solved with a big idea. You pick up on a trend months before it becomes popular. When everyone else is looking at what's already obvious, you're focusing on what's emerging. This is where innovation happens. This is where growth starts. This is where leaders are formed. Most people wait for opportunities to announce themselves clearly. But by the time an opportunity is obvious, it's usually already crowded or taken. Conscious observation puts you ahead of that curve. It gives you the ability to step into possibilities while they're still small, still quiet, still invisible to most. And that's how you build a life that others call lucky, even though it's not luck, it's awareness. Most people think great communication is about having the perfect words ready at the perfect moment. But in reality, communication begins long before you open your mouth. It begins with observation. When you truly pay attention to someone, their tone, their posture, their pace of speech, the emotion in their eyes, you understand how to communicate in a way that actually lands. Communication is not a one-size-fits-all skill. It's an art form that changes based on who is in front of you. And conscious observation is what allows you to deliver the right message in the right way at the right time. When you observe consciously, you start noticing the emotional climate of conversation. You can sense whether someone is defensive, open, nervous, excited, confused, or simply not in the headspace to receive feedback. Most misunderstandings and conflicts happen not because someone said the wrong thing, but because they said it at the wrong time or in the wrong tone. Observation gives you the ability to tailor your delivery. You know when to soften your voice, when to speak with more certainty, when to lighten the mood, and when to be silent long enough for the other person to breathe. These adjustments seem small, but they completely transform how your message is received. You also start understanding the unspoken boundaries and emotional triggers people carry. Someone who has been criticized their whole life needs reassurance before direction. Someone who feels overlooked needs acknowledgement before advice. Someone who communicates indirectly needs patience before clarity. When you're observing, you don't bulldoze your way through conversations. You meet people where they are. And ironically, this makes your words far more impactful because you're not just speaking, you're connecting. Conscious observation also helps you communicate your own needs more clearly. When you start noticing how others react, you begin to understand your own patterns where you feel defensive, when you shut down, when your tone changes, when you get impatient. This self-awareness makes you a calmer, clearer communicator. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding intentionally. You choose your words instead of letting your emotions choose them for you. And the most powerful part is that observation makes people feel safe around you. When someone feels that you understand them, not just the words they say, but the emotions behind those words, they trust you more. They open up more. They listen more. Communication becomes smoother, deeper, and more meaningful because it's built on presence rather than pressure. Great communicators aren't great because they talk well, they're great because they observe well. Most people go through life reacting instead of responding. They get triggered, they lash out, they shut down, they overthink, they rush decisions, they avoid discomfort all because they're not fully aware of what's happening inside them in the moment. Conscious observation isn't just about noticing other people. It's also about noticing yourself. And when you observe yourself with the same precision, curiosity, and honesty that you use to observe the world around you, you gain a level of control over your inner world that most people never experience. Every emotion you feel is a signal. Every reaction you have tells a story. But if you never slow down enough to observe those reactions, your emotions end up controlling you instead of guiding you. When you consciously observe yourself, you begin to recognize the patterns you fall into, the way your body tightens when you feel threatened, the way your voice gets sharper when you're insecure, the way you rush into fixing things when you're anxious, or the way you emotionally withdraw when you're hurt. These subtle changes often happen automatically without permission. But once you start noticing them in real time, you interrupt the autopilot. You break the cycle. You gain the power to choose a different response. Self-observation also brings clarity to your triggers. Instead of wondering why certain situations set you off, You start seeing the root cause, the unresolved insecurity, the past experience, the unmet need. And once you understand the cause, you're no longer confused by your emotions, you're informed by them. You don't judge yourself for feeling something, you observe it. You don't shame yourself for reacting, you study the reaction. This shift alone creates emotional maturity. It gives you the ability to pause before you respond, to breathe before you speak, to think before you decide. Another powerful result of conscious self-observation is emotional regulation. When you notice your internal state rising, anger building, anxiety increasing, fear tightening your chest, you can step back mentally and choose a grounding response. You can slow your breathing, change your focus, or communicate your feelings clearly instead of letting them explode. This doesn't just help you, it improves your relationships. People feel safer around someone who can regulate their emotions instead of being overtaken by them. And perhaps the most transformative part of self-observation is that it helps you grow. You stop repeating the same patterns because you finally notice them. You stop attracting the wrong situations because you're aware of your emotional habits. You stop sabotaging your own progress because you can see your blind spots. Conscious observation turns you into someone who doesn't just feel, they understand. Someone who doesn't just react, they choose. Someone who doesn't just exist, they evolve. Conscious observation is a superpower most people walk past every day without ever realizing its potential. But once you awaken this ability, you begin to experience life on a deeper, more meaningful level. You don't just exist in moments, you understand them. You don't just move through conversations. You absorb the emotional truth behind them. This awareness becomes the foundation of emotional intelligence, connection, and inner strength. It gives you the ability to interpret the unspoken signals that shape your relationships, your opportunities, and your decisions. With this higher awareness, you stop being blindsided by situations that suddenly fall apart. You stop missing signs that others overlook. You stop reacting impulsively to your own emotions. Instead, you begin to move through the world with intentionality. You respond thoughtfully. You communicate effectively. You choose wisely. Conscious observation becomes the quiet guide helping you navigate life with clarity and foresight. It gives you the advantage of understanding what's happening before the moment becomes overwhelming. As your observation deepens, your presence strengthens. People feel something different around you. A calm confidence, a grounded energy, a listening ear that actually listens. You become the person who picks up on the subtle cues others miss. The person who understands without being told. The person who sees beyond the surface. This kind of presence builds trust, influence, and connection. It makes you stand out without ever trying to stand out, because awareness speaks louder than volume ever will. And perhaps the most profound transformation happens within you. When you observe your own thoughts, reactions, and emotions, you begin to master yourself. You break patterns that once controlled you. You heal triggers that once shaped you. You develop a relationship with yourself based on honesty, clarity, and growth. Conscious observation doesn't just change how you see the world, it changes how you see yourself. And that is where true power begins. Thank you so much for watching and spending your valuable time with me today. I truly appreciate your presence, your attention, and your willingness to grow. Your support means more than you know and inspires me to keep bringing powerful, life-changing content to you. If this message touched you, guided you, or opened your eyes in any way, make sure to like the video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs it. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another powerful lesson. Your journey of self-awareness, clarity, and growth continues, and I'm honored to be a part of it. Until next time, take care of your mind, protect your energy, and stay connected to the power within you. Thank you, and goodbye for now.